All right, guys, let's take a few minutes, and talk about the Jubilee bracelets. Now, I want to talk more specifically the Jubilee bracelets for the Seiko SKX. However, I don't have the Super Jubilee for the SKX. I do have a Super Jubilee with the straight end links that I put on this Solar Tuna. The reason I don't have the Super Jubilee for the SKX with the SKX end link is because that first end link does exactly like this thing does. So if you can picture the fitted end link being this guy, and then you have those two prongers that are fixed sticking out. So they're going to essentially extend your lug to lug. And you guys know that's kind of a pet peeve of mine. I don't think it's as big a deal on the SKX with the Super Jubilee style, because I'm sure it's just going to fold back and kind of do one of those numbers. Whereas, on this guy with the straight end link, you can just flip it. It'll get full articulation right out the lugs. So that would differ from the stock Jubilee, whereas the first two pins actually articulate right off that hollow end link on the stock bracelet. If you get the Super Jubilee, those two things right here, these guys are going to be fixed. That's why I don't have it for the SKX. Now, if you look at the Angus Jubilee, which is primarily what this video is intended to focus on, this guy here, they did it, in my opinion, correct, where those first two links are just like the stock one and they articulate. Now, the links are so beefy and stuff like that, you can get it to bind up. But if you just flip it a little bit, you can see what I mean. You can get it to lay completely flat against the case, not extending your lug to lug. So that's my preference in a bracelet. Now, with the Angus Jubilee, it is way more substantial. You can see here the link size in comparison. I mean, it's easily twice as big as the Super versus the Angus. But overall aesthetics on the wrist, it looks really good. Maybe a little more masculine, but still jewelry-like, where it has a lot of, light reflections and everything like that. Also, the clasp is totally different. And I know there's different clasp options, but typically when you get the Super Jubilee, you're going to have this standard clasp, which honestly I'm actually a big fan of because it is so thin. And we'll do some measurements here in a second. As soon as you get this clasp, which is all milled, you have more micro adjusts. You have 6 micro adjusts, which is great. And then it is a nice clasp. I don't mind this clasp. But look how much thicker it's going to be. It's probably a couple millimeter thicker for sure. So if that matters, then maybe you could get the Super Jubilee, or you can swap the clasp or whatever. I think this clasp matches the beefier bracelet better. So I think that's partly why I really don't mind. And it really is a nice clasp. So I have not taken these screws out, but everything I've read or watched videos on, even the screws coming in and out seem more premium overall. And I'm not saying that the Super is not nice. It is actually really nice, but I think it's a nice upgrade for many people over the stock bracelet. So how cheap and everything the stock one feels, and a lot of people, including myself, are like, oh, that's part of the charm. I really like the bracelet, and I do. This one is just way more robust and solid feeling. And then it elevates even to the next level with the Angus. It's just way more beefy on wrist. So everything feels slightly better on it. And when you pop this guy on wrist, and it's going to weigh a little bit more, and then with that clasp, being a little larger, it's just going to feel more substantial. So it just feels, I don't know, more manly, I guess. I don't know, whatever the words are. So definitely, I think the Angus is a very, very good pick for SKX, both in stock form and certainly when you get into modifying them. Depending on what you do to it, it elevates it. It makes it seem that much more special or premium, if you will. So I couldn't see myself, and I actually had done this, but you can see even the stock one like binds up and everything like that. You can get it to just snap back loose, but the clasp on the stock Jubilee is just, very simple and basic. But as soon as you start modding the watch, I think you you can't neglect the bracelet. As good as, or the stock Jubilee is as much as many of us like, it's like you've improved other things and then just neglected the bracelet. So I think at least go with maybe a Super Oyster. There's some good options there. You know, the Super Jubilee, if you don't mind the end links. I can't deal with the end links. I just don't like it. And I would certainly consider this Angus. This is really nice. There's some really good options from Uncle Seiko, of course. You can, depending on what kind of mod you do on it. So this would be a little more vintage inspired. So it has hollow end links and everything like that, but it's a really good watch. It fits really good to the case. So price wise, first of all, the Angus Jubilee is, I don't want to say difficult. You can find them, but it seems like people are realizing it's such a good value, even at the higher price. So you can get the Super Jubilee for the SKX with the SKX end links. I recommend getting them from Mark over at Long Island Watch. You can get them for $69.95. You know, if you're an Amazon Prime crazy user or whatever, if you're stuck on that, then they're only $63 there. But I really believe in supporting like Mark and the ADs and some other watch shops like that. That's definitely spend the extra few bucks and give them the business so they can keep supporting our community. It goes both ways, you know what I mean? We support them, they support us. So the Angus Jubilee, unfortunately, currently, as of December 2018, Mark is out of stock. He'll get more stock in real soon. His price is actually less than what you can get it on Amazon because it's not on Prime or anything like that. So Mark at Long Island Watch is $107 on the Angus. And the price might fluctuate depending on supply and demand and all that stuff. But he will get more in stock, I'm sure, because he's doing a bunch of really cool Seiko stuff and supporting the Seiko lines with the accessories. You can find on a non-Prime seller the Angus Jubilee on Amazon, so you probably could get it. And I haven't looked on eBay, but on Amazon it ends up being like $109 for the Angus. So definitely all really cool bracelets. You're sure to find something that works for you. You can obviously see I like the Jubilee style. I will be picking up an Angus as soon as Mark gets them in stock. I'll probably contact him and get put on the list or something. If he has a list, he probably doesn't, but I think you can get like a restock email or something. But you can see here's the stock links compared to the Angus. So way more robust looking and just equally as well finished, if not better, you know, obviously. So anyway, guys, thanks for watching. I will see you very soon on the next video.